US President Donald Trump has urged Israel to be very careful. His statement comes following the Israeli strikes on Qatar last week. Now, while speaking to the media, Trump said that Israel needs to do something about Hamas, but Qatar is a great ally to the United States.
But Qatar has been a great ally to the United States. A lot of people don't know that. I told the Emir, who I think is a wonderful person, actually, I said, you need better public relations because you don't really get the public relations. I mean, people talk of it so badly, and they shouldn't be. Qatar's been a very great ally. So Israel and everybody else, we have to be careful. When we attack people, we have to be careful.
Now, Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani has strongly condemned Israel's recent attack in Doha, labeling it as state terrorism that targeted Hamas leaders and undermined the country's mediation efforts. Now, he urged the international community to reject the double standards and hold Israel accountable for its actions.
The message of this summit, which must reach everyone loud and clear, is solidarity with Qatar, Doha, from the Arab and Islamic worlds, against the aggression of the occupying Israeli state. This aggression which combines cowardice, treachery, and foolishness.
The Arab Islamic Summit's draft resolution condemned Israel's strikes in Qatar and other actions, saying that they jeopardize efforts to normalize Arab-Israeli ties. While the summit in Doha is being held to show solidarity with Qatar following the attack on Hamas leaders. Meanwhile, Israeli forces struck multiple high-rise buildings in Gaza City on Sunday after issuing an evacuation warning to the citizens. IDF has indicated that the Gaza takeover will take 6 months to complete. In the early hours of Monday, a huge explosion was seen over the Gaza Strip from southern Israel as IDF continued to pound the city. Now, as per the Gaza Health Ministry, Israeli strikes have killed over 64,800 Palestinians so far. Palestinian groups in West Bank have claimed that Israeli settlers have blocked flour trucks from entering Gaza. They said that the settlers blocked life-saving aid, which was heading from Jordan to a military depot on the Gaza Strip border. Displaced Palestinians returned to inspect their homes in Hamad City residential area of Khan Yunis after the Israeli army classified it as a safe zone while urging Gaza City residents to evacuate. People described the area as a ghost town due to the massive destruction that they had witnessed. And for more on this, joining us from Wicklow is Professor Scott Lucas. He's a professor of international politics, Clinton Institute, University College Dublin. Thank you so much, Professor Lucas, for joining us on the broadcast.
Thank you for having me here.
Professor Lucas, what do you make of the latest developments, and especially after the joint press conference with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu?
It means that whatever Secretary of State Marco Rubio said privately to Benjamin Netanyahu, publicly, the Trump administration is fully behind Israel expanding its attacks in Gaza, overrunning Gaza City, no matter how many people are killed, and establishing a long-term occupation of Gaza. The reason why I say this is that, first of all, Rubio effectively said regarding the Israeli attack on Hamas's negotiators in Qatar, which of course is a U.S. ally, he said, oh, it's time to move on. In other words, that's behind us. Now, privately, he may have told the Israelis, don't attack Qatar again, because of course they failed to kill those negotiators. But what's important here beyond Qatar is that Rubio has said publicly that this assault on Gaza cannot end until all the hostages are returned, but Hamas is eliminated. Now, there's a fundamental issue here. You were negotiating with Hamas, supposedly. Supposedly, you were in talks with Hamas to find a way to end the violence. You cannot negotiate with Hamas and also call for Hamas to be eliminated, given that Israel is trying to do so violently. So what Rubio has effectively said, although the Americans may not put it as such, is we no longer really support the efforts to establish a ceasefire, and we're no longer going to hold the Netanyahu government back regarding how far it goes with the military operations. And may I add one more thing as well, why this is so striking. The head of the Israeli military, General Eyal Zamir, told legislators yesterday that he has no idea what the Netanyahu government is going to do next after overrunning Gaza City. The military have not been informed. He also criticized the facade of this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is supposed to provide aid to Palestinians, but in fact has wound up getting more than 1,500 of them killed. Even Netanyahu's military do not support what he is doing fully, but the Americans do.
Right, Professor Lucas, and there has been a disparity between the official reports that we've been tracking over the days and, of course, what has come out of the joint conference where Israel said that we attacked Hamas in Qatar and it was wholly done on our own accord. And again, as we're seeing the reports that are coming from Gaza, the offensive is just intensifying. How do you see this conflict going forward, and how do we read between the lines in this rhetoric that we've just witnessed in the joint press conference as well?
Whether or not the Trump administration knew in advance of the Israeli attack on Qatar, the fact is it happened. So either the Trump administration knew in advance of that attack, which was again on Hamas's negotiators, and they approved it, or Netanyahu went ahead and the U.S. did nothing to try to stop that operation. So they are complicit in what happened. Now, it may be that the U.S. has told Israel again, don't attack Qatar. But in terms of what happens in Gaza, there is no way forward. There are no negotiations mediated by Qatar, mediated by Egypt, mediated by anyone else, given the Netanyahu government's goal now is to overrun the Strip and to establish those 4 zones of occupation. Benjamin Netanyahu said from the outset of this, after Hamas's mass killings in October 2023, my goal is the absolute total destruction of Hamas. And that remains his goal. And we need to stop pretending otherwise. In other words, however many civilians get killed, however many civilians get starved to death, for Netanyahu, it is justified in this war against Hamas. And the Trump administration has signaled that at the very least, they are not going to stand in his way.
Right. Thank you so much, Professor Lucas, for putting things in perspective for us and sharing your valuable perspective with us and audiences.
Thanks to you and your viewers.